welcome to the third game of the evening. Up this time is a game called Gemini or Gemini. Um, I suppose either pronunciation of that word is valid. Like,
Gemini is usually the way you pronounce it as a zodiac thing, which I guess is the pun. The other half of it is gem because the
mhm,
tower you're defending is a gem.
right. It's another title that's working with the play on words here. Um, as Gemini is a tower defense game where your objective is to protect the crystal while staying alive. Um, like, geez, not even the PR points here are really advocating this game all that much. Like features, 6 different worlds, 25 levels, and 125 waves of enemies to fight, 64 types of equipment and upgrades, many monsters and bosses to kill and get rewards, and that's it.
Pretty much. Yeah, you're in an area. Every area has a gem in the middle of it. There are 6 worlds. There are mostly 5 worlds with 5 levels per world. I guess there's an extra world at the end for like the last boss or something. And yeah, each level has 5 waves of enemies, which increase in intensity and difficulty as the waves progress. And then within the same world, it often is pulling from the same pool of enemy types. So, like the first world is a grassland, and you have slimes and zombies, and then skeletons. But there are also upgraded slimes that are faster and upgraded zombies that are tougher that come in partway through. And then at the end of each world, there's a boss. At least as far as I got. Um, in addition to other things like health refills and mana refills, when you're in a stage, enemies drop money, and occasionally an enemy might drop an item. Apparently, there are some unique items that I think can only get from dropping from enemies. And sometimes in stages, there'll be a chest that gives you an item. There are basically two kinds of items.
Mm-hmm.
Three technically, but there are two kinds of items that I count as items. There are weapon items and there are equipment items. And the weapon items, they can be swords, they can be boomerangs, they could be magic staffs. There are a whole bunch of different kinds of them, but they all damage the enemy. It works basically like a twin stick. You move with the left stick and aim with the right stick, and then attack continuously while the right trigger is held. Um, there may have been an alternate control mode, but this one was the one that made the most sense. Um, so yeah, the differences in weapons are how powerful they are, how fast they swing, how much mana they cost, if anything, and also how physically big they are, and so because that affects their range, and also if they have a projectile, which most projectiles require mana. Um, so it's interesting, although it's possible early game you will not have much, and it's possible to get stuck with like a pretty crappy weapon and have to replay an old stage to get more money to buy a better weapon. But when you clear a stage, you go to the shop. You can go to the shop whenever you want between levels, but right when you like, if you have to try again, but between stages, you get brought to the shop and they have a collection of items you can buy with the money you picked up, and they can be weapons or they can be equipment. Equipment can also increase your damage or speed or walking speed or attacking speed or how fast your mana regens or or like if the second world is icy and there are some things that prevent you from slipping on the ice. And there are also permanent upgrades that you can buy. There are like health upgrades and mana upgrades, and I think there might have been speed upgrades. I don't remember. And you can get those. They don't show up that often, but they're permanent, and you can pick up those multiple times. You can also buy things you've already gotten, but you don't need to because there's also a book in the shop that lets you basically summon for free any weapon or equipment that you've already picked up, so don't waste your money buying a longsword just because it's in the shop if you already had a longsword. I almost did that. Other than that, it's not bad, but there are a few weird things. The physics when your character overlaps with another thing are weird. You kind of slide around it. The detection for where you're swinging with weapons, especially the shorter range ones, isn't always as precise as I would have liked. When you die, or lose your gem, you just start back at the start of the same thing, and you have to quit manually. You don't get like a "Do you want to retry?" It just retries you automatically, and then you have to quit. And the enemies get a little bit unfair, partially because, particularly on the Switch version, although it looks like the Steam version is the same, your screen does not cover anywhere near a significant proportion of the arena. I would say it's probably 4 or 5 screens wide by 3 or 4 tall. Probably 4x4 screens. Maybe a little more. Anyway. And so you can't really see where things are coming from easily to know which side you need to be on. So, like, it makes you really want to go and hunt things out. But also, if you do that, stuff might come from the other side and start banging on the gem while you aren't there. And also, eventually you start getting enemies that fire projectiles, and those are extremely unfair because the only way to do them is to hit them with your weapon or block them with your body until you can. The one thing that keeps this game from being completely impossible is that enemies aggro. So by default, they're aggroed to the gem, but if you smack them, they will attack you instead, even if you move away from the gem. So at some points, you basically have to like kite things around because otherwise you're just screwed. The bosses are the last wave on the last stage of each world of the ones that I was in. And they're tough, and you kind of have to give them space because they have much bigger attacks than most things. And when you beat them, you get a special weapon, which is neat. The first boss is an Earth Golem. It gives you a sword that's equivalent to the long sword, except it also fires hunks of dirt. So it gives you a projectile, which is nice. And I didn't beat the second boss because I'm not actually that great at this. I tried.
That's a Comic Sans stars worthy performance.
I mean, there's not really a whole lot to say about this. In the ice world, you got your fast sledding penguins, you got your ice zombies, and I couldn't tell if it was literally just giant snowballs attacking me or if there was something off-screen throwing them. But I couldn't go far enough because the penguins were tobogganing too fast. So yeah, in the stages there are also boxes you can break to get mana or health potions or money sometimes. It's best to not break them all at once because you might need the health later or mana later if you're using a weapon that runs on magic. The magic wands are actually pretty nice for range, but they do almost nothing in melee. So,
can you have more than one
there
weapon,
are bushes
or
you can cut down, but I don't think that actually does anything. Sometimes they're not bushes; they're like snow heaps or whatever. And yeah, that's. Does anybody have any questions? The music was okay. It's pretty about what you'd expect from looking at it.
can you have multiple weapons, or?
If you pick something up in a stage, the other one stays on the ground, and you can pick it back up if you don't like the new thing.
Okay.
But otherwise, no. When you enter the stage, you can only have one weapon and one equipment.
And does the color of your player matter, or is it just, hey, pick your favorite color?
I think that's depending on what upgrade you got last.
Mm,
I'm not sure. My character's been pink for a while, but I haven't been able to afford any more upgrades for a while.
okay. I think that's it from me.
All right, so I suppose that gets into pricing.
Uh-huh.
Well, the Steam version is clocking in at a surprisingly hefty $7.99. And the Switch version is clocking in at a more reasonable $3.99.
Yeah, I'd get it for $4. Oh, there's another thing that I'm not sure if it's just this game, but this game seems to be doing it more. Sometimes my controllers just disconnect and it's hard to get them to reconnect, and I don't know what's up with that.
Fun.
But it's been happening mostly when I was playing this game, so if you try to use Joy-Cons held separately, that you might, I don't know. I'm not going to blame it on the game entirely.
I could not speak to that.
Anyway, yeah, for $4, sure. I guess it's fun enough, but I think it'd be more fun if this game had slightly more varied spaces or multiplayer or something.
Maybe for the sequel, if
Maybe.
one should ever be generated.
I mean, it's like Gemini, and you can't even have twins.
Anyway, so that'll about do it for Gemini. Be sure to tune in after the break as we will be reviewing Nectar of the Gods.